Whatever our faith, the holidays give us a chance to look for and honor the essential humanity in each of us. In this video, Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen will share a story about a doctor who had a profound reminder of why this is so important.
So this story was told to me by an emergency room physician. And he was in the emergency room on an average busy night when the ambulance arrived with a woman in active labor, about to deliver a baby. And he was called to the ambulance bay right there, and she was on the gurney, and he looked at her and he said, "Oh, I've got to examine her right away. I mean, this looks very, very close." And he did a very quick exam and realized that the birth was about to happen, and the chances were her doctor was not going to make it, and he was going to get to deliver this baby himself, and he was pleased. He's delivered hundreds of babies in the emergency room, and he likes, as he put it, testing his own competency. He liked that. It gave him a sense of efficacy, if you will,
yes,
to deliver babies. So he explained to her that she was safe, and he was a very experienced person in these matters, and he was going to deliver the baby if the baby came before her doctor did. And he had barely finished comforting her when the birth began. And the nurses ran for the packs, and two nurses stood on either side of him with her knees on their shoulders. And right there in the bay, the ambulance bay, he delivered her of a little baby girl. And everything had gone perfectly. Baby was breathing spontaneously. He had freed the after-coming shoulder. All the technical stuff had gone perfectly. And he had a feeling of, pride, And he took the baby, and he laid the baby along his forearm with the back of her head in his palm, and he lowered her below the placenta, and he began to suction. She was still attached to her mother. He began to suction her nose and mouth. And suddenly, the baby opened her eyes and looked deeply into his eyes. And in that moment, his whole usual way of seeing things fell away from him. And he realized a very simple thing. He was the first human being that this little girl had ever seen. Mm. He was standing there on the threshold of life itself. And in a moment, he felt his heart open to her and welcome from the whole human race, from all of us, right? And there were actually tears in his eyes, but it didn't render him incompetent, Ruth. He continued to suction the baby, clamped the cord, and he was telling this story to a group of doctors in one of our meetings. And he said, he realized that he had delivered hundreds of babies, but he had only been there as a doctor. He had not been there as a human being. He had never had a sense of what he was serving with his expertise. And then he said something interesting. This guy's like a fighter pilot. He's not a poetic guy. He said, the moment when the baby opened her eyes was like a holy moment. And in that moment, he felt all of the cynicism and depression and frustration that he had carried for years fall away from him. And he could remember why he had come. Why he had come. Why he was doing this work. And then he had this feeling. He said there was a feeling. And the feeling was gratitude for being the person who got to stand there and welcome her. Gratitude. And then he said to himself, and he told us, he says, began to wonder how many other moments of inspiration, and holiness even, he had missed in his career in all of that time in the emergency room, 21 years, right? He says he thought he had missed most of them. And so he looks for them on purpose now. He looks for the holy moments on purpose. He says, and he finds them everywhere.
Now I'd like to hear from you. When have you had an experience like this one? Please share a story or leave a comment below. And as we gather to celebrate with family and friends, or even as we experience quiet moments of reflection this season, may our eyes be open to the mystery, wonder, and holy moments all around us.